So, if you were to grade yourself so far as to how your administration's done is in its current capacity, on any scale you want, 1 to 100, 0 to 10, A, B, C, D, F, how would you say you've done so far?
You know, that's a really tough question to ask. You know, I think we're working somewhere in the 90s out of 100. I think there are some areas that we still have to improve, but I think on the major issues that we've been asked to try and tackle, I'm certainly delighted with the way that we've been able to tackle them. I know that people in the administration have a lot of time and respect for how we've tried to engage around those issues. So overall, I'm happy and pretty excited about the way that we've handled most of the major issues. I think there are a couple of ways that we can improve. I think we can still be more accessible to students. I think we've made progress on where administrations have been before us, but I think that can still be made better. I think we still haven't engaged the student population on a number of issues as much as we would like to do. That being said, we did see with the drop ad period movement last week the first kind of real engagement on a mass level of students that has happened in a long time. And I'm absolutely delighted by the fact that we've been able to engage with upwards of now 8,000 students on that issue, as well as engaging with staff and faculty, alumni and parents, and it really has been a movement across the board from us to engage in that. So that is something that I'm particularly delighted that we've been able to engage with students on. I would love to see us doing more of that.
Yeah. Okay, so to transition, I actually had a question about the dropout petition. How many signatures is it up to? You just told me over 8,000. What kind of goal do you plan on going before the Board of Governors and saying 8,000 people have signed this? We encourage you to change it, and would you expect that to happen, or?
So certainly, I think we have to utilise the fact that we have got such wide range support for the dropout movement, and I think that does end up in an ideal world at the Board of Governors meeting. And I know that I've already engaged with both the president of the UNC system and the chair of the Board of Governors about this issue, and both seem willing to sit down and have a conversation about it and try to work out exactly what might be best for Carolina. So I'm excited about that, and certainly we know that our work is not done. We want to collect more signatures. We want to engage with more people on this issue, and we want to really be seen to be working with the administration at Carolina, with the faculty at Carolina, because really what we've seen is that at Carolina nobody supports this policy. And that's something that general administration needs to hear. They need to hear that students don't like it, that faculty don't like it, that the administration doesn't like it. And we've seen that across the board, but what we haven't yet seen is really a united voice against it. We've seen a lot of individual voices speaking out against it, and I think where the movement Defend the Drop is heading is that we do want to be united with the faculty, with the administration, in really opposing this policy and being able to propose something else, something different that would work better for our campus.
All right, so to jump back to my first question, if you had to say what your biggest accomplishment has been so far of your presidency, what would you say it's been?
So I think the relationships that we've been able to build, both with the new Chancellor, the new Provost, new Board of Trustees members, but also extending up to the Board of Governors and also extending across other campuses in the UNC system. I think UNC Chapel Hill now has strong alliances with state student government and also with Appalachian state student government, and that's a result of networking that we've been able to do, and I think that's something that we will be able to utilise at the next level. I think where we could have perhaps improved in the past as an institution, and particularly student government, is really working with other institutions to tackle issues that are across the board and hurting all schools, whether that be tuition increases, whether that be things like the gun bill in the state legislature, whether that be things like voting rights across the state of North Carolina for students. I think they're all areas that we've been able to really build a coalition across the state with other student governments to stand up and oppose, and as a result we've received national news coverage on those issues. I think coming back to our campus level, we've really been able to engage with the new Chancellor, with the new Provost. They've heard where students stand on a lot of these issues. They've heard the student perspective. And now where we need to be at is we need to be pushing that student perspective and making sure that what students want and need to happen is actually what's going to happen at Carolina. And I fully believe that because of those relationships that we've been able to build with the new Chancellor, with the new Provost, and they've only just been in the job for just over 100 days now, I think as they start to know more about the institution, as they start to be able to get into positions where they can make decisions, they are going to be factoring in the student perspective. They are going to be listening to students even more and really concerning and engaging with the student population.
Okay, so I realize you still have a lot of time left, so you can still fix the answer to this question. But what would you say has been a letdown? Something that you were expecting to get done or didn't, or something that you got done in a lesser capacity than what you wanted to?
So I think this is somewhere where I've changed my perspective a little. Coming in over the summer, I'm going to talk about the sexual assault policy. Okay. Coming in over the summer and when I was in office, I was very clear that I really wanted to come back this semester with a new sexual assault policy. I'm a serving member of the university task force that's rewriting the sexual assault policy. And I really wanted students, after the immense amount of dissatisfaction that was expressed last year, to be able to come back and have a new policy that has been vetted, that has been looked at, that is ready to go, and that has fixed the problems that really students expressed about the previous policy. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that. Now, I say unfortunately, I think everybody heading into that process underestimated the size of the task and the difficulty of the discussions that we had to undergo. You look at other colleges that went through the same process. Some of them took 3 years to write this policy. We're certainly not going to take anywhere near that long. I fully believe that we will have a policy ready to go within the next couple of months. But I was slightly disheartened that we weren't able to get that out, but I think the result of that is that when we do eventually get a policy, it will be absolutely the right policy for Carolina. It will have been heard and vetted by all the groups that need to have a voice on this issue, that need to have perspective, that need to have input into writing this policy. And I think that's the trade-off that we have. We slowed down the process a little bit in return for getting the best possible policy that we can have, and I think really that's the best option.
Do you expect to have this new policy in place for the spring semester, or would it still be in the works, do you think, in January, February?
I think we'll have a new policy by the spring semester. I don't want to 100% be tied to that, but I think certainly my perspective of where the task force is at the moment, we will have a new policy implemented in the spring semester. Whether it is the final policy that we are 100% completely satisfied is another discussion. But I think we will have something new, a new process in the spring semester. And I think what also goes along hand in hand with this discussion is that the policy isn't all that matters. It's also about the implementation of the policy. And I think that a lot of the negative feedback that we got about the previous policy was also a lot of problems with implementation. And I think through discussions that I have, through action by the administration, through a decisiveness from both the Chancellor, the Provost and the Board of Trustees, we've been able to make real changes in this area. I mean, one of the main ones being that at this time last year, we had no single employee dedicated to this issue on campus. We now have 3 full-time employees, and likely we're going to get more full-time employees dedicated to this issue at Carolina, which I think is a huge transition and I think will hugely help with the implementation of the policy.
So, recently you wrote a letter to the Association of Student Governments.
Sure.
That was in the Daily Tar Heel. What do you think that their number one priority should be right now?
Advocacy. I mean, I think it's very simple. They're an advocacy organisation. They're there to speak on behalf of students. They're there to speak for 220,000 students who don't have the same ability and access to high-level administrators, to legislators, to the Board of Governors that that the association does. And to be blunt, they put 3% of their budget towards advocacy. That is not what an advocacy organisation is supposed to be doing. For them then to come here to Chapel Hill and not even consider a resolution that I had put forward along with State and Appalachian State to support the Department of Justice in their decision to sue the state over the voter ID laws, which are having a hugely negative impact on the student population. For them not even to consider that bill really shows that they're not willing to step up and be the advocates that they need to be. And I think we need to challenge them to do better. I think they need to do better, and I think we're going to keep on pushing them to do better.
So something that's facing campus right now is the new mandatory parking fee. You've come out in opposition to this. How would you feel? So you're against the, I think it's $20-something fee for everybody.
Sure.
So if this doesn't pass and the budget it requires the $227 permit to park at night, do you think that that's an acceptable trade-off where $27 for everybody or $227 if you need it?
I don't. I think there's a little bit of a false dichotomy being portrayed here. I don't think it's an either-or, and certainly I'm going to push for it not to be an either-or. If you're asking me what I prefer of the two options, either the $227 parking permit or the $10 fee that would be levied on everybody, I prefer the $10 fee. I think it's more equitable, and I think, to be honest, the number of people purchasing a $227 parking permit is going to be minuscule. So I think, but equally, I think students here, and I've said this a number of times, students here are being asked to increase the amount that they are paying towards the transit system, towards the parking system on this campus, when they are seeing no substantial benefit increase. And that is the bottom line for me. If you are asking students to pay a bigger percentage contribution to the system, they need to be getting something in return to that, and I'm not seeing that. To be clear, I'm not against 100% of that fee increase. I certainly think students need to cover their fair share of the increased cost in transit, so the increased cost in gas, the increased cost in having to have new buses. We need to cover our fair share of that. It's only fair that we do. We use the transit system. But at the same time, I've not seen any rationale that I agree with to see students having to pay a greater percentage of the overall cost of the system.
Okay, so compared to what you imagined when you were campaigning and in transition, what would you say has been your biggest surprise that's been different now that you're actually performing within the role of student body president?
You know, the number of hours that I'm putting in a week. That's not to say that I didn't expect to be putting in a lot of time and energy into this job. But really it's taken off, and my love and passion for it is what is driving that. And I think, you now see I'm most weeks I'm working upwards of a 60-hour work week on student government, which is not necessarily something that I expected coming into the role, to be working that many hours. I'm delighted that I am, because it allows me to do something that I'm really passionate about, that I really enjoy, for a lot of time. And I think the more hours that we put in to the job, the more we're going to be able to get out of it for students. And I think we're really seeing the effect of that in the relationships that we've been able to build as a result of really taking time to foster relationships, taking time out of the day to go and meet with administrators, to go and get lunch, to just stop by their office, check in on how they're doing, build those really tangible relationships that ultimately will benefit the student population if we're able to bring those and utilise those relationships moving forward on a number of key issues.
Okay, so tomorrow morning you wake up and one issue that has been troubling you, bothering the campus, bothering the administrators, is completely fixed.
Sure.
What is that issue?
Social assault. No question about it. If we could wake up tomorrow and have all of the problems that the university has faced in relation to sexual assault fixed, if we could wake up tomorrow and have every single student on this campus feeling like they're safe, feeling like the university is going to protect them, there is no question in my mind that that has to be the number one priority for the administration and for us. And I think if that was taken off our plate, if we were completely satisfied that that had happened, that would be a major, major success. And ultimately, that's what we're aiming to get towards. Of course, it does take time, and there is no easy fix to what is essentially a very, very complicated problem. But I think we are tackling it, we are facing it, we are getting towards that place where students will feel safe and will feel protected once again, and will feel confident that we have a process, that we have a policy, that we have a system in place that will bring about the right results for all students involved.
Okay, so this is probably my final question, unless something arises out of this. So, back in February, I was reading the Daily Tar Heel article about your charge that you had tried to tackle too many issues.
Sure.
When you were campaigning. How do you feel you've addressed that argument, and do you think that their concern was legitimate?
So no, I don't think their concern was legitimate. I think we, as students and in student government, should try and tackle as many issues as we possibly can, and we shouldn't limit ourselves to trying to tackle just one or two issues. I think that there are a whole variety of problems on this campus that students have issues with, and that students want to tackle, and that students feel bad about it. And for us as student advocates and student representatives, to sit by and let some of those issues just slide by would be completely unacceptable. So I think this is where you see really that increased workload that I was talking about. Maybe in previous administrations they would have tried to tackle less issues. I'm not saying that they have, maybe they did, I don't know. But certainly in this administration we have tried to tackle every single issue that a student has brought to us, has said that they have an issue with. I think what I found slightly bizarre at the time that the DTH wrote that article was that I was also getting a lot of criticism for not trying to tackle enough issues. So I think this is a very subjective issue. I think where we have succeeded as an administration is I think that we have tried to tackle every single issue that has been brought to us. Obviously, there have been some higher priority issues that have got my focus and the focus of the rest of the executive board. That being said, we have 15 cabinet committees and special projects that have been working on a whole variety of other issues to try and tackle and make the student experience at Carolina the best that it possibly can be and the best in the world, which I think is the mission of the institution.
Okay, I think that's everything I have for you.
Great. Thanks so much, Connor.
Thank you for allowing me to take some of your time.
No problem.